So our last video was about how foreigners, including Americans, all foreigners in Kenya are not allowed to extend their visas from the usual 6 months per visit to only 3 months. No more extensions. So you cannot stay more than 90 days at a time in Kenya. Now, that made a lot of Americans panic and wonder how can they actually live here long term without getting a residency or a work visa. So today we're going to discuss what are your other options if this new policy affects you living in Kenya. I'm Austin Holloman. Make sure you like the video and subscribe. Let's get into it. Just a quick disclaimer. All of this stuff will be the legal way that you can live in Kenya. I would never advise for you to do anything illegal. And I'm just going to give you guys a quick recap again. If you go on the visa website to get your tourist visa for Kenya, this visa would originally allow you to stay 90 days. And if you want to extend another 90 days and do 180 days for that visit, you could pay a fee and you could do that. But now if you try to do that, they will deny you and you can only stay 90 days and you have to leave the country of Kenya. And if you don't abide by this law, this could lead to you overstaying your visa, which of course means that you could be deported, fined, or at the very worst, you could be banned. So if you want to avoid all that, I'm going to give you a few alternatives. Now, the first long-term stay alternative to staying in Kenya is to get a work permit. And they have a Class D and a Class G work permit. The Class D permit is for employment with a company in Kenya. So if you wanted to go work at the Burger King or the Pizza Hut in Kenya, for whatever reason, an American won't want to come here and do that, you would have to get the Class D employment visa. If you are somebody that is an investor or a business owner, you want to come open up a Pizza Hut, or you want to invest in a certain project that's going on in Kenya that requires you to live here, you would get a Class G work permit. And the rough cost of that is usually around $1,800 to $3,500 annually, which is extremely expensive. Now, the pros of having these work permits is, of course, it gives you stability where you don't have to keep leaving the country just to be able to be here in the first place. And you get a pathway to permanent residency in the future. And you get permanent residency after you stay on a visa, a work visa, for 7 years in Kenya. Now, the cons, of course, is the price. And there's a lot of paperwork that you had to fill out, like getting government documents apostilled and stuff like that. For example, this work visa is 250,000 shillings, and we'll put this value on the screen, 250,000 shillings. And in order to maintain that for 1 to 2 years, each year you had to pay 100,000 shillings per year. So if you're serious about working or investing in Kenya, there's pretty much no way around doing this. This will be your best option. The second one, in my opinion, is the most affordable one, which is a student or a volunteer pass. And in order to get this visa, you would have to enroll in a Kenyan university or volunteer with an NGO. And the cost is around $100 to $200 per year. And the pros of this is it's affordable. $100 to $200. If you don't have $100 to $200, you need to be worrying about something else besides coming to Kenya. $100 to $200, and it's straightforward and easy to get. And you must actually be in school or volunteering. Do not try to fake that you are doing these things, because you will have issues down the line in the future. Sources have said, this is not my words, but some people even sign up for language or business courses in Kenya just to get this pass. I don't know how sustainable that is, but I've heard of people doing that, and I'm not recommending you do that. The third option is the dependent pass, which is through marriage or family. For example, if you're married to a Kenyan citizen, you can get a visa to live here, and you get the path to permanent residency after 7 years of being on that visa. If your spouse or parent already has a work permit in Kenya, you can qualify as a dependent. And this usually costs anywhere from around $70 to $135 annually, which is extremely, the cost of that is pretty much irrelevant when you compare it to the work visa. And this is another reason why you'll see a lot of long-term expats here who will try to settle down through their family ties to Kenya. Now, the fourth option is a special pass, which is a short-term while waiting, which is usually around 3 to 6 months while applying for the permit. And the cost of this is $200 per month. And this, what you would do is, if you were, let's say you're applying for the digital nomad visa or the work visa, and you don't want to leave, but you put in your application, what you would do is you would file for this visa and pay, or file for this pass and pay $200 per month until your paperwork is verified, so that way you can stay in the country. Now, the fifth one is a little bit of a risky option. It's not illegal, but it will come under scrutiny at some point because it looks like you're just working the system, which is things that people do in a lot of other countries, especially places like Thailand, which is border hopping. If you guys don't know what border hopping is, whenever I was in Thailand for a few months, I noticed that people that were living there long term would stay that entire visa they had, and then they would go to Cambodia, cross the border, get their passport stamped there, come back in, get it stamped again, and then go back and their visa resets. Now, it does work like that here in Kenya, but the downside is I've heard of people going to Uganda, Tanzania, or Rwanda and then re-entering to get their new 90-day tourist visa, and they get stopped because they've been doing that too much. The people at the Border Patrol do not like that kind of behavior. It's literally operating in a gray zone, a legal gray zone. And this all pretty much will come down to how that immigration officer feels that day. For example, I experienced this in South Africa, which was absolutely ridiculous. If you guys don't know, I went there in January and I left after I was in South Africa for every bit of 8 days. And Americans get 90 days in South Africa. I left, came back to Kenya, and I was in Kenya for 3 months. And then I went to Mozambique and then came back to South Africa just to be there for a short period of time. I didn't really want to be there in the first place, but I just went because Bobby was going. I'm like, yeah, okay, I hang out with you for a couple of days, so I'll do some work and do some shopping and stuff like that. And the Border Patrol officer made it seem like I was trying to overstay my visa, which I would never do that there. That's highly unlikely that I would even want to stay there that long. But he tried to make it seem like I was overstaying my visa, and he thought that I was doing a border run to Mozambique, and I'm telling him, like, look, you can look at my last passport stamp back to Kenya. I went back to Kenya in February. It's now April, literally almost May, almost. And you're trying to make it seem like I'm trying to work the system. I don't even want to fucking be here. Like, what are you talking about? So anyway, he told me that I had 4 days to get out of the country, and you cannot return until February 2025 or January 2025 because I overstayed my visa. Now, keep in mind, the other guy I was with, we flew the first time together and left at the same time. We flew to Mozambique and we got to South Africa at the same time. They didn't tell him that. They told him that his visa had pretty much had like another 3 or 4. He didn't have to leave until like June. I don't give a damn about that, but I'm just giving you guys that example of that's something that could happen, that if you came to Kenya, you could be put in that same scenario. And if you've been living here and you're depending on border runs and you've invested here, you furnished an apartment, you got your circle of friends, all that stuff is going on. And then they hit you with something like that saying you can't come back until the next year. And this is why border runs are not efficient. Maybe in Thailand, so many hundreds or probably thousands of people are doing them and there's no real repercussions or any issues with it. I'm assuming it works there. But in a place like Kenya, that's not going to be a viable option. Now, for me, this was working in 2023 because I was literally not staying in Kenya no longer than a month. Like when I came the first time in May, I was here for 2 weeks. And then I left and I was gone for like 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. And then I came back. And then I was back for maybe a month, month and a half, maybe somewhere around there. And then I left and I was gone for another 10 days. And I came back and then I left and I was gone for a month. And then I came back. So it didn't look like I was doing border runs. It just looked like this guy just likes being in Kenya. And then I was gone for a year and a half and then I came back. So in that scenario, it'd probably be okay. But if you were like crossing the line and trying to do it at the last minute and you do that 3 or 4 times in a year, yeah, it's not going to work out long term. So let me know what you guys think. This is not a method that's meant to be abused. That's something that, hey, maybe you do it once or twice until you figure out your visa situation, but don't depend on that to live in Kenya. You need to get a long-term permit or a pass. So even though tourist extensions are gone, you still got multiple ways to stay in Kenya long-term, such as work permits and student passes and dependent visas. But let me know in the comments which option you have taken to stay in Kenya long term. And if you guys would like insider information on my daily life, especially life living in Kenya, I will link my Patreon in the first pinned comment section below. Make sure you sign up. The first 50 signups we get this month, we'll get our Nairobi social life guide for free. Right now, it is $85, but the first 50 that sign up, even for the lowest tier Patreon, will get that guide for free. So make sure you click the link in the first pinned comment in the description. Let me know what you guys thought about the video. I love you guys. I'll see you guys next time.